business. What's new and important in Android? Who in the room has got an Android device? I'm never going to get this to you. Mind your eyes. First person to put his hand up. This is dangerous, right? Maybe we just pass it back. Oh! Yeah? Yeah! Okay. It looks like everyone in the room has an Android device, so hopefully this is relevant, because Google I/O came and went, and it gave us Jelly Bean. And now, as of next Monday, Monday the 13th, there'll be some new Android devices and some new Android hotness in Android Jelly Bean 4.2. So now we have 2 Jelly Beans, which is good. The first one, who knows what flavor the first Jelly Bean was? From Google I/O. You have to have been really paying attention at Google I/O to know what flavor the first Jelly Bean was. Any guesses? Okay, it's not strawberry, no, whatever. It was butter flavored. Because we put a lot of effort into Project Butter, making Android that much smoother. We have some new APIs in Android 4.2 that I'll be talking about as well. And a whole family of Nexi. The Nexus 4, 7, 10. 4,700. The Nexus 4, 7, and 10. A whole family now. I don't know what we'll do after that. But first, as always with the what's new and important in Android talks, we'll just have a quick look at the latest Android statistics. So there's going to be 8 cheesy animations in this slide. You have to put up with them, because if you use Keynote, you have to put cheesy animations in your slides. We now have 500 million plus activations, 1.3 million every single day, 1.3 million every single day, 825 devices. We went through 25 billion app installs on the Play Store. We have 675,000 apps. I'll run through this quickly, because this is the boring bit before we get to the fun stuff. In 169 countries. This represents about 200% growth year on year. Around 90% of Android users are now in countries that they can purchase applications. 60%, 67% of our Play Store revenues come from outside of the US. This is trending even higher. Very good news for all of us who are in the rest of the world. More than 50% of revenue is from in-app billing. In-app billing overtook paid applications like 6 to 8 months ago, and it's just going stronger and stronger and stronger. In-app billing is primarily the best way now of making money on Android. A free application with in-app purchases done in a clever way as to get your users to actually buy them. And very importantly, around 40% of Android users can now charge to their carrier bill. So removing that hurdle of having to put your credit card details in. Carrier billing is continuing to roll out across Europe. Okay, Jelly Bean 4.1 was yesterday. Now we have 4.2. The only flame animation in the entire deck. I'm not Dan Galpin, I don't use flames on every side, but now we have, it's hotness, Android 4.2. Lots of awesome new features, starting with multiple users. This is a great use case on the tablets. I've got it here working on one of my tablets here. You can just switch back to the home screen and switch users. Each user gets a totally separate account with their own applications installed. You'll be able to ask more questions about this at the end of the talk if you have anything specific you want to know. But basically, the application binaries are shared and the data spaces are separate. So if you go and install your favorite application, hopefully, I don't know, something from the Czech Republic. A Mad Finger from the Czech Republic? Shadowgun? No? Yes? Yes, Shadowgun. One of my favorite games on Android. And then you hand it to your partner who also wants to install Shadowgun. When they go to the Play Store and try and install it, it will install instantly because the binary is already on the device. It won't need to do the download again. But also, when you install an app, it doesn't automatically appear in their profile. You can't see each other's apps. That would be creepy. So you have to go and choose to download it, and it will download instantly. And then you can seamlessly switch between users, and each version of the application has its own data space. So developers don't need to worry about it. It's just transparent for you, and all the current applications will work. If you do really, really want to write an application that's multi-user aware, there are multi-user APIs. You can find out from the device how many users are on the device and which user is currently using it. So there may be use cases where that's relevant, and you can build it into your application. But for the most part, multi-user will be very seamless for the developers. We have wireless display now. The Nexus 4 on the box now says without wires. It has wireless display, wireless charging, and NFC. So you can get the device and you may never need to plug it into a wire if you don't particularly want to. The wireless display is Miracast standard. Miracast is a really, really new standard. So right now there aren't too many TVs and dongles and things which support the standard, but they are coming out in their masses very soon. Very large TV companies have signed up to Miracast. The Galaxy S3 has Miracast in it. The LG G, whatever it was, has Miracast in it. And it is the forthcoming standard for wireless displays. So soon you'll be able to walk into anyone's house and just fling your screen onto their TV or their projector. It would be very handy if there was Miracast in here. And there's APIs for that as well. So when the second screen is plugged in, either via HDMI or wireless, you can get it notified into your application to say there's a second screen plugged in, what the dimensions are, and then you can show something separate on the second screen to what's on the phone screen. The Google Movies app does this already, so it's a good test case. When you plug it in, it changes the display, and the big movie goes onto the big screen. We also have Daydreams. Daydreams are essentially screensavers. It works a little bit like live wallpapers. Inside your application, you register that you have a Daydream. And then in the Daydream selector, people can choose it. And you can, if you have a news app, when the phone is docked or charging, it will show your news on the screen. Weather is also a very good use case. You could potentially put anything you want up there because they are interactive. Developer API. Photosphere, as you saw in the keynote this morning, enables full 360 degree. I think it's just over 30 photos that get taken for a photosphere and then all stitched up together. Hopefully that posted up to Google+, and you've seen it now. But it's just a really nice immersive way of showing the entire scene. We have a photosphere viewer built into Google+, and of course they're in the latest Android hardware as well, or firmwares. So if you download that picture from Google+, you can still view it in this native browser on the device. And I didn't do that I should have done that in the keynote, damn it. You can upload directly into Google Maps as well. From a photosphere, there's a share button, which allows you to share to Google Maps. And if you share it to Google Maps, that whole sphere gets put into Google Maps for anyone to view when they're in that area. So anyone coming here would have been able to just see what was happening in the auditorium on this day. It uses kind of Street View technology. Gesture typing. Very smart keyboard. The gesture typing works amazingly well. As you're moving your finger across, the suggested word is appearing on top of your finger. So you can just keep your eyes on where the word is moving. For me, this works particularly well if I've been drinking. Somehow it's easier to do that than tap typing on the screen. There you go. On the tube, still, and you can still get messages out very, very quickly. With enhanced word prediction as well. We have more security. So we always had security in the Play Store, or at least for the last few versions. We had the Bouncer malware checker, and it was looking inside the applications and generating reports and seeing if they're doing anything nefarious. And now, people are always, but Android's still unsecure because you can sideload applications. What if someone sideloads something, or, you know. So now when you sideload applications via USB or downloading them off the internet, the first time you do it, it comes up with this dialog and said, would you like us to check that sideloaded applications are also not harmful? It's done very quickly. We just take the hash, we send it up to our servers, and we check against our great big database of applications. The nice thing about this is, as soon as we detect an app has malware in it, we just flick it in the database, and then nobody can install it again if you have Android 4.2. It will just instantly say, no, this is known to be malicious. An extra layer of protection. And all of this 4.2 awesomeness is built on top of the 4.1 Jelly Bean that we saw at Google I/O. So at Google I/O, as I said, we had the Project Butter, reducing screen latencies, increasing touch responses. Those touch responses and screen latencies are very important to us in making the premium quality products. And the Android Design in Action and App Clinic shows are constantly pushing to try and make sure applications written for Android are very responsive as well. And you're moving things onto the background threads, and the CPU can boost up when necessary to make things that much smoother. You'll see these little YouTube links. Each one of the YouTube links that are in this deck is another 60-minute talk from Google I/O just on this one slide. So if you do want more info on Project Butter, you can have a look on YouTube for Butter or Worse from Chet and Roman. We also added notifications, the rich notifications in Jelly Bean. I'm not going to talk about those right now because Nick's going to talk about them in his talk at maybe 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. He's going to be doing design patterns. And design patterns? Android UI patterns. Android UIs. Definitely worth going to, though. Google Play Services did get launched. Yay! We announced it at Google I/O and it got launched a couple of weeks ago. And it gives you access to be able to log into Google services at the moment very easily. It takes away a lot of the mucking about with OAuth and web views that you needed to do before. Makes it much easier to integrate with Google Drive, Google+, these sort of things. And this is a library that's shipped in the Play Store, and we are constantly updating it. So you'll get more and more features from the Google Play Services library as months go on, and it's not tied to the Android release cycle. But there'll be, Google+ integration, YouTube integration, Drive integration will all be very, very easy for Android applications. One of the easiest things to do right now is just add a +1 button in your application. +1 buttons, same as in the Play Store, there's a +1 button. They can affect the ranking of your application, so it's good to have as many pluses on your application as possible. But also you can use it to plus external content. We added Google Cloud Messaging. Anybody using C2DM or GCM? Anybody still using C2DM? Everyone's migrated over? Yeah, that's great. So I've given this talk probably once a month since Google I/O, and there's always some people left on C2DM. I'm very happy that you've all moved over, because it means we can switch through the next couple of slides, which tell you how to migrate from C2DM to GCM. So Google Cloud Messaging, we took all the feedback from cloud to device messaging. You wanted to be able to broadcast to multiple users at once instead of having to ping our servers for everyone. You wanted JSON support. You wanted no quotas. Quotas were bad for us too, because we had to have a person there authorizing every single quota request. And there were a lot. So now we just have, well, not one person. Now we just have, what are they called? Now we have me forgetting what the word is. What's it instead of quotas? We have unlimited. No. Sorry? No. There's some rules that get applied to your messages if you try and do too many messages. Heuristics? Well, maybe. There's a word I'm trying to think of. I'll think of it in 4 slides' time. So we have automatic rate limiting, things like that. But there's no quotas instead. And the advantages of GCM. We have now a much more simple API key. JSON support, multicast messages. Time to live, how important that message is. If it's a chat message, it may not be relevant in an hour's time, so you can just tell our servers not to bother, just to discard it after a certain amount of time. And we have payloads. So if you have a messaging application or something like that, you can use GCM as your entire backend to your service now, if your messages are less than 4K. So I can switch through this. This is how to migrate from C2DM to GCM. There's a new endpoint, blah, blah, blah. And then we get onto Google Play, updates from Google I/O again. We have the Smart App updates, which were Gingerbread onwards. So if you have applications, we will, on the update, we will only send the necessary new parts to the user. So if you have a 5 meg app, but you've only changed one little class, we'll just send that down. It saves a lot on bandwidth, download times. Your updates get out there quicker. App encryption from Jelly Bean 4.1 onwards for paid applications to secure your APK files. This is the new copy protection. In-app subscriptions came along. Anyone started using in-app subscriptions yet? 1, yeah. Is it working out okay for you? Yeah, I hope so. And expansion files. A big win for a lot of the big games publishers because we allow you to put up to 4 gigabytes of assets alongside your APK file for that second stage download. More in Android apps in Google Play. We also refreshed the developer tools, adding in the whole set of tools that we used in Project Butter. So we use these tools, Device Monitor, System Trace, NDK Support, and Tracer for GLES for debugging our own apps, and now you can do them as well. And there's what's more in developer tools. Application templates, awesome. Developed mainly by Roman Uric from our New York office. You can now just go into Eclipse, file new Android application, and you can say that I want a 2-frame fragment application, and all the boiler code gets put in for you. Very, very, very useful. And we're adding new templates all the time. There was some new, this is a very long list, so I'm going to skip through this one. There was some new navigation. Putting parent activity name in your activity of your Android manifest can automatically sort out the up button for you, the up affordance inside Android UIs. Can be a little bit complicated, but adding this one parent activity name into your activity can fix it for you, especially if you're in the case where you've got a widget launching into your application. What should happen when the user presses the up button from your application when it's launched from a widget? With parent activity name, you can specify to the framework exactly what should happen in that case. So in Gmail, if you launch into a message from a widget, and then you press the up button, it will go to the list view. If you press the back button, it will close. Much more accessibility. Media, I'll talk about a bit more in a minute. We've got the new low-level codecs for media and render script compute as well. This was, it's fine. There's more about that at What's New in Android Developers. Flying through it. Let's have a look at one of the APIs then. Media Codec. It joined us in Android 4.1. Anybody using Media Codec? Not yet? Not surprised. But it's awesome. It's what we needed all along. It is low-level access to the media codecs on the device. You can find out which codecs are on the device and use them in the hardware. Someone really wanted that feature. Sorry? Finally, right. Yeah. And you can find out the capabilities of them. You can figure out all the codecs on the device and use them, which is quite important too. Low-level media decoding and encoding on the GPU hardware. It comes in 3 parts. 3 very logical parts. We have the file parser, so you can open up a media file on the device and inspect it. You can ask what it's encoded with, how many streams there are, what each stream is, the length of the streams, all that kind of thing, and then you can extract them. So that's for files that are on the device or in the cloud. And then you can inspect the device itself to find out which codecs are on there. Android specifies a minimum set of codecs, the MP4s, AACs, these sort of things. But companies like Samsung will often bundle a lot more codecs onto their devices to make sure that DivX and XFIDs and even WMV files, Windows Media files, work on Samsung devices. So you can query the device and you can find out which codecs are on there, which video formats you'll be able to decode and encode, and then do it on the GPU hardware. And then finally, the decoding and encoding functions themselves, which direct buffer access now. You can fire data straight into the buffers of the encoders and decoders and get the data straight out again. Very, very powerful, very useful. Media extractor. This code, if you go to the media extractor class in the API docs, this code sits at the top of there anyway, so you don't need to try and write it down or photo it or anything. You just start a media extractor. You set the data source to one of the files on the device or a stream. And then you can run through that data source looking at all the different streams that are inside it. And you're going to be able to pull out the MIME types of the streams. So you'll see there's a few audio MP3s, a few video MP4s, whatever it is in there. And then you can get the sample data. For example, if the MIME type's video, you can pull out details like the width and the height of the video. If the MIME type's an audio one, you can get sample rates, channels, and then pull out the data if you want. So that's the querying of the media files. Then to query the device itself, again, very simple. Media codec, get codec count, tells you how many codecs are on the device. And then you can iterate through those codecs and just find out what they all are and the capabilities of them, whether they're encoders and decoders. And you can put together your own media streaming, playing application with your own server side without needing to use our media players. And then the decoding. When you're getting those buffers off your stream, either from the file or the internet, you can now throw them straight into the codec, and then you can put the output of that codec as it's decoded, either directly to the device screen, or you can save it back into a file again as you're decoding it. So if you had a movie editing app, you might want to put it into a file, the user can then edit it, and then you re-encode it on the way out again. So media codec is getting extended and extended. Right now, these are the function set that we have, but it's this now very useful, very necessary, low-level access to the encoding and decoding hardware of Android devices. So it can output directly to the screen. If you're decoding a media file and you get the audio and video streams, and you're not using our media player, you're going to have to sync those back up again, of course, if you want to play them. So your application has a little bit of work to do around there, but we do have the encoder functions. What we don't have right now is the repackaging functions. So if you've decoded some streams and played around with them, and then you've re-encoded them again, what you can't do is package them back into, say, an MP4 file. You still need to default back to FFmpeg or something to repackage them. But hopefully the repackaging is coming quite soon. You can do most of it for now, and you can get it onto the screen, which is the most important. OK, on from the API to the 3 lovely devices in front of me. I split them up this time. The 4, the 7, and the 10. So the Nexus 4, slightly wider screen than the Galaxy Nexus. If you hold them on top of each other, the screen height's about the same, but the Nexus 4 has an extra 48 pixels wide. Bezels are a bit thinner, so the device is actually about the same size. So it's now 1280 by 768. It's not pentile, it's IPS plus grid of pixels. Quad-core Snapdragon Pro at 1.5 gigahertz, super, super fast. That's something you really notice on this device. As you're switching between your emails and galleries and everything, it never lags. It's always responsive. And it's totally wireless. You get the wireless display, the wireless charging, and the Android beam. Some of you will have noticed, because of the wireless charging, you can't take the back cover off. I'm guessing there's some kind of inductive coil here instead. So instead, inside, there is a larger battery than before. I think it's now 2100 milliamp hours, so quite a bit bigger than the Galaxy Nexus. I personally get through a day without any trouble. Charge it at night times. I was a bit nervous myself about switching to a device without a removable battery, especially when coming to conferences. I used to have for my Galaxy Nexus a battery in my pocket, a battery in my bag. But so far, it's been very reliable. And it charges super quickly as well. Nexus 7, you all know. Any Nexus 7s in the room? I know it's quite hard to get them here. Yeah, loads. Excellent. Nexus 7 will, of course, be getting the Android 4.2 update. I'm not quite sure when yet, but hopefully we'll find out quite soon. 1280 by 800, Tegra 3, very fast again. Lovely family device. People have found that they love this 7-inch form factor, especially with this price point, which is important. And the speed of this device. Now we've removed the 8 gigabyte SKU. You can no longer get the 8 gig Nexus 7. The 16 gig is now the price that the 8 gig used to be, and we've added on the 32 at the old 16's price, and the 32 3G as well, if you like to have roaming data. And the Nexus 10, what? One thing about this is just the screen is insane. I tried to look at the pixels on it, but it made my head go funny. There's 4 million pixels on this screen. It's 2,500 pixels by 1,600 pixels. That means when you plug this in via the HDMI out into your big screen TV, into your 50-inch TV, it has to downscale the content for your 1080p TV. It's like, what is this thing, this old arcane thing I have to plug into? This, if you play a game, Need for Speed, Most Wanted, Mass Effect, Infiltrator, these games are running at native resolution in OpenGL on this device. And the crispness of the graphics is just amazing. So you may think, 10-inch tablet, not much of a use case, what am I going to do? Honestly, the screen on this thing is just a beast. And it's got the world's first ARM A15 processor in it. People are saying, why is the Nexus 4 only quad-core and the Nexus 10 dual-core? This thing's got 2 A15 cores in it. And if you go and Google what that means, that's insane as well. So it's got a lot of power and a Mali T604 GPU as well. So very, very fast GPU, very fast CPU, and it can power this screen. So you can come and have a look at the screen later and see if you can spot the pixels. But it's dense. How dense, you may say? Well, good news for people who are coding. The Android tablets up till now, the 10-inch Android tablets up till now, have all been, maybe except one Transformer Prime, MDPI. So they've had a density of 1. This thing has jumped to XHDPI, which means it's got a density of 2. So your layouts, as long as you did your layouts in dips, in density-independent pixels, your layouts would be identical on this display as they would be on a normal 1280 Android tablet. So the dip size is the same as the dip size of a standard Galaxy Tab 1, something like that. Density is obviously much higher, so it's going to be pulling resources out of the same bucket as the phone resources, the XHDPI resources. So if you've got those resources there anyway, they'll just look super awesome on here, and your layouts will fit. And the magic of the Android platform, well, something to behold. And of course, the Nexus 7 sits in the middle with its 1280 by 800 and a slightly lower density. One other thing that's worth noting is that for Android tablets, we pull the launcher icon out of the next density bucket up to make them super crisp. So for this, it's actually going to be, if you've got a launcher icon in the XXHDPI bucket, it will use that one instead, and it will look amazing. They're 144 by 144 pixels, and excuse me, some of the games on here have already updated, and some of our apps have as well. So Shadowgun being one of those. If you look at Shadowgun on here, the icon is just super crisp. So XHDPI is now a valid place to store launcher icons, at least. It's got this photo. So developing for the Nexus 7 now, because quite a few of you have got them, hopefully you've picked some of this up. There's some things that if you do in your application, means it won't be included in the Play Store for the Nexus 7. Declaring hardware features. This thing doesn't have a back camera. And the feature android.hardware.camera actually refers to the back camera. It's a legacy thing. We added front-facing camera as a second feature later on. So hardware.camera means back camera. So if your application specifies camera, just put required equals false on it as well, or it will never be available on a Nexus 7. And many photo apps are still relevant on something like the Nexus 7 because you want to do the editing. The same goes for telephony. There is, of course, the 3G variant now, but before that, if you had an app that required telephony, it wouldn't appear in the Play Store for things like the Nexus 7, and vibration as well. So just say required equals false, and then just check at runtime whether the feature is there or not. And we always recommend you support both landscape and portrait. There's a number of Android devices that are default landscape orientation, especially ones with flip-out keyboards. Don't like typing on a flip-out keyboard with your head this way. Standard stuff. Nick's going to talk more about these again later on. Use the action bar, action overflow. Flash has now gone, in fact, so stop using it. And embrace the butter. Spread it everywhere, all over your UI. Some people ask, should I use a phone UI or a tablet UI for my Nexus 7 application? We couldn't decide. We made an individual decision on each of our applications. So for Gmail, we use the tablet UI. You'll see it has the column on the left and the details pane view, and it looks great on the Nexus 7. But for YouTube, we took the phone UI, because that big grid, spinning grid that you get on the tablets just didn't look great. It was a much better experience to have the phone UI. So just for your application, judge which is better, try it out, run up an emulator, a hardware accelerated emulator, and try out that screen resolution and screen density, and just see which one fits best. There aren't any hard and fast rules for it. Of course, a lot of the things we've been talking about are inside the Google I/O app. And it's open source. You can always grab the latest Google I/O shared application from Google Code and see how to use all these new funky features that we pile into the new funky devices. Resources, as always. I'm sure most of you know these now, but they do get updated quite a lot. There's some new training classes went in Just last week, Android, develop at android.com/design. Apps need to be awesome. They need to be designed well these days. And sourced at android.com. If you have any questions for us when we're not here for a couple of hours each year, we run Android Developer Office Hours on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Czech time. And anyone, any Android developer can just come along and ask their Android development questions to us. It's on Google+. And you can get to all the different office hours at developers.google.com/live. There's office hours for Google+, office hours for YouTube, office hours for Google Drive, and office hours for Android, along with the other sessions that we run. Android Design in Action, the App Clinic, and the app reviews. So please do come along to those if you have any questions. We always welcome you in. If you ping us beforehand, we can add you into the Hangout as well. Else, everyone can watch it on YouTube Live. We have a moderator for asking questions. And now I've sold myself and our weekly show. I'd like to open it up live now. But it doesn't want to open up live now. Batteries run out at the end. Ah, I turned it off. For any Q&A that you may have here. Thank you very much. Oh, looks like we have swag. Right, I'll see you all later. No, what are they? We have some swag for good questions. Yay. Does anybody have a question? Hi.
When can we expect the new Android on our devices, like Nexus 7?
I don't actually have a date for that. I know that the new devices are coming out at the start of next week, and then we'll start the rollouts after that. Hopefully we'll be able to give you some more information on Google Plus once the new devices are out. Hopefully not too long though. I mean, my Nexus 7 here is running 4.2 at the moment, so it's close. Super close. Hey.
Should we, when we design the application, should we forget X large, large, and so on, and use SW60 and SW72?
Yes. Okay. They're definitely the preferred buckets now. Yes, they're definitely the preferred buckets. No, come on, this is more fun. Give it here. It's close. Yeah, of course, older devices aren't going to support those buckets. But please do use those buckets as well. It's going to make it much easier for you to differentiate between the 7-inch tablets and the 10-inch tablets, with the SW600 for the 7-inch and the SW720 for things bigger than that. Yeah, I'd like to see those being used as much as possible for forward compatibility. Red tie? Yeah.
Hi. Thanks. Wait. I have a question. Please. All right.
All right, I'm going to take 2 more questions, and the best question will get the last T-shirt.
All right. So I have a question. I don't know if it's Android related or is it just Google Maps, but there's a traffic info in normal Google Maps, maps.google.com.
Yeah.
But when I activate traffic in Android Maps, the traffic is just not there in the Czech Republic. It's everywhere, but not in Czech Republic.
Really?
Is it some hate towards Czech Republic in Android?
Totally. We don't care about your traffic at all.
Or is it
you don't even have traffic. I took a cab from downtown to here. It was like 10 minutes. Jesus. Maybe it is enabled, but you have no traffic. No, I can get the list. We have a list of all the countries that have traffic enabled. So I can check if Czech is in there.
Well, but on normal maps, the traffic is there. And even in this thing, I can see traffic in maps.
Yeah.
Like, and it's Google powered. But why isn't it in the API? It's just, I enable traffic and it's not there.
Just for Czech Republic?
Just for Czech Republic. It's everywhere. It's in Poland, Germany.
Sounds like it might be a bug. But I can check it for you. I can check if we have that. If not, I'll report it to the Maps team. Jeez.
But I mean for Android maps, I'm not talking about Apple apps. Maps. Of course. Yeah. There was just some...
Yeah. No, we can definitely send that off. If you say that surrounding countries have traffic available in the API and Czech traffic appears on the web, but then it doesn't in the API, that's just crazy. One more question. Very big hand at the back. Oh, sorry. One at the top. Oh. Really? Is your question not so good?
Question.
Okay.
Google Glasses.
Yes, I can't talk about.
Why don't you wear Google glasses?
I can't talk about Google Glass.
When I want one. I
Me
want
too.
one now.
Yeah. So finally, there's one or two in the office in London. I'm from the London office. If you go to the Mountain View office, there's people walking around into lampposts and stuff everywhere. But in the London office now, I think we have one or two. I don't have anything else.
Are they epic as they look?
Yes, they are. Sorry, this guy, I want one from the top, because he's got a GDG. Just shout, it's okay. Just shout.
Okay, there was on some slide, I think it was Nexus 10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And there was dual NFC.
Oh yeah, good spot.
This is for.
What the hell is dual NFC? It's two NFC aerials, one in the front and one in the back. So if you're, right, you're looking at a map and you want it on your phone, you can now, with the Nexus 10, just put your phone on the front and get the map. You don't need to hold them back to back and try and, it's big. So yeah, it's just two aerials, one on the front, one on the back.
Okay, thanks.
Now finally, sorry dude, up at the very, very top.
On 10-inch tablets, the preferences are in global. Can I make it on Nexus 7?
On the 10-inch tablets, the preferences are in dual pane. Can you do it on Nexus 7? No. That was one of those things we decided, or the framework team decided that the phone UI would be better. I can check to see if it's in. I assume it's the same. I haven't noticed any difference. Settings. No, it's still single pane. Okay, I think that the guy who spotted dual NFC definitely gets the t-shirt or the pin. Do you want a Chrome t-shirt or an Android pin? T-shirt or pin? T-shirt. And someone over here asked, yeah, there we go. You can get the pin there. Thank you all very much. I'll make room for the next speaker.